How many of us have never had the freedom to make our own choices? I think for me, when I realized that many of my choices were being made from a place of fear and that I needed to make them from a place of love, a lot shifted for me. I think being financially independent is a very big component of achieving that ability to say no. We need to realize how our empathy, our love, our respect for one another, how our ability to empower each other can really shape, society. All the inherited biases have to be erased with education and awareness. I'm so glad that people recognized how powerful, how beautiful, and how much Shakti you can experience when somebody is so spiritually aligned with what is being done. The only way we can bring a real change in the world is if we all just operate from a place of love.
Hi, this is Sheetal and you are watching Pink Villa. On today's episode of Devi, the Empowering, we are celebrating women who have the courage to unleash the Shakti within. And my guest today, firstly, it's such a fangirl moment for me because finally I'm getting to interview her. She's the epitome of grace and purpose and probably one of the most talented, strongest and the most empathetic women I've ever met.
How sweet, Sheetal.
Joining us in a conversation, we have Dia Mirza.
Thank you. It takes one to know one.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
You look gorgeous, by the way.
Thank
you.
I
love that the radiation that you have, the positive aura, it's translating into me. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It's quite literal, no? Pink for Pink Villa.
Oh, wow. Honored. I want to start off by asking you that you started off as a model and then you went on to be a beauty pageant winner and then an actor and a filmmaker and a mom as well now, right? But I also know for the fact that you started out in the 90s as a model and back then it was so rare for a young girl to get into modeling field. So have you ever faced any judgments based on this back then and even now for all the choices you've made?
No, actually, when I did become a model, firstly, I come from a home and a family that was academically inclined, and everybody was like either lawyer or a doctor or a teacher, professor. My grandfather was a professor at Osmania University. All his children were, gold medalists.
Wow.
And I grew up believing that I would also pursue an academic life. And for the longest time, I harbored the ambition to be a lawyer. And when I finally got the opportunity to model and I discovered how empowering it was to be financially independent and to be able to travel and meet interesting people, I really started to enjoy it. And I really enjoyed the fact that I stopped taking money from my parents at age 16. And I think that that's what my family recognized as something that was empowering me, something I was enjoying, and something that was giving me the ability to travel and discover more of life than possibly a more sheltered life would have. So no, externally, because I was also from a city like Hyderabad, which at the time was pretty, girls from families, good families, were extremely sheltered. They were married very young. It still continues to happen. The pressure to get married once you hit puberty begins, literally. Like when you're attending weddings at age 16, 17, 18, 19, the only focus on everybody's mind at that wedding is iska rishta kisse karna hai.
Next is you.
Yeah, so coming from that kind of environment, it was there were lots of judgments. It was hard, but I think eventually with the way I've kind of, paved my path, the kind of choices I've made, all of that combined, the same people who probably looked at me with disdain and now look at me with an entirely different lens.
When you say this, a very important thing that came to my mind is that usually in some of the households, people say that ladkiyan parai hoti hai.
Yeah,
right? And
बहुत घरों
बहुत
में आज
घरों
तक
में,
बोला
हाँ, आज
जाता
तक बोला जाता है. And you often see that they wish to have a son more than a daughter. Of course, times are changing now, but not so much कि we can say that all the households think that way, right? So what's your take on that?
It's very interesting. आज तक हम अब देखिए, you can't change the fact that we are inherently a patriarchal society. Few parts of our country are matriarchal, but a vast majority of our country and the world is patriarchal. Legacy or the surname is mostly carried forward by the male member of the family, which is why there is this obsession with having a male child. And also I feel economic, what do you call, support was perceived to only be something that a male child could, offer the family. Today, women have proven otherwise. But it's taken the last 40, 50 years of very incredible women who made that choice to go out there and explore the full potential of their being and to be the primary breadwinners of the house and provide not just financial but emotional security to their family and their loved ones. So that perspective is changing. I work with organizations that work with a lot of women that come from communities that are, backward, that need all kinds of support. But we witness this even in that strata of society, where whenever there is a female member of the family who achieves not only financial independence but is able to support her family, the perspective and the level of respect for her shifts dramatically. And it makes a huge difference. So no longer is she perceived as a burden and that parai ghar ki beti or whatever, but everything changes. So the shift is happening as we speak, and hopefully we'll change more and more with the time to come.
Yeah, absolutely. We are progressing, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the very deeply insightful observations or realities that we were struck by during COVID was the fact that so many girls dropped out of school during COVID. Now that again is the indication of the same thing, right? That eventually boys are prioritized in families, girls' education is not a priority, and if it comes to, financial crunch or just needing more support to do the work at home, it's always the women and the girls that have to, face the brunt of it.
When you say this, I feel that education as well as financial independence is what will make women believe more in themselves, right?
Yes, of course.
So what's your take on that?
That gender equality can only be achieved through educating our girls and giving them opportunity to be financially independent. There's nothing else that will achieve gender equality.
Yeah. Dia, I know for the fact that you've been a vocal advocate for women empowerment and gender equality, especially with movies like Thappad and even Dhak Dhak, the recent release, right? So tell me something, in the film industry, how do you think women should be represented, or what is the way forward to show how women are supposed to be through storytelling?
Sheetal, I said this in one of the posts that I put up after Dhak Dhak was released. So firstly, Dhak Dhak is so brilliantly aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. There are so many goals that have been woven into the narrative. I don't even think the writers are consciously aware कि वो ये कर रहे हैं. But it's taken the Hindi film industry only 110 years to put Uzma, Manjari, Mahi and Sky at the center of their narrative and tell such a uplifting, motivating, inspiring story about 4 women who are identified by a vast majority of women in our country. I've seen very privileged women also see a part of themselves in the narrative. How many of us have to overcome or spend our whole lives grappling with operating from a place of fear? How many of us have set our dreams aside to be able to accommodate, adjust, or just be there for our families? How many of us have never had the freedom to make our own choices? So there's so many things there that women are relating with and connecting to. And I feel stories must have intentionality. They must help us recognize our shortcomings as people. They should help us, spend time in introspection. They should help us become better people. And I feel narratives like Thappad, like Thug Thug, they really have in so many ways uplifted and will continue to shape the way women perceive themselves, their lives, and what it is that truly strengthens and empowers them.
Yeah, that is so true. And in fact, the fact that you mentioned the fear,
Yeah.
every woman has that fear in them.
Yeah.
And the other part to that
क्योंकि
is
वो तो पुश्तानी होती है ना
हाँ.
शीतल. We've inherited fears.
conditioning.
ये मत करो, वो हो जाएगा, वो मत करो, ये हो जाएगा, ऐसे कपड़े मत पहनो, ये हो जाएगा.
लोग क्या कहेंगे?
वो तो मतलब कमला वसीम की एक बहुत खूबसूरत कविता है. बेसिकली उनके माध्यम से हमको ये समझ में आया कि इज्जत बेटी के झोली में मत डालो. That is what creates so many problems in a girl's life, in a woman's life.
When you say this, I also feel that out of fear, women don't know to say no. Like most women,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
क्योंकि we feel that अच्छा लोग क्या कहेंगे, and because we have that maternal instincts, हमको लगता है कि we need to take care of others first and then we put ourselves. At least ऐसे मतलब सालों से होता आ रहा है.
Yeah.
And इनके बीच में I think we are losing ourselves, right? So how do we learn to say no?
I can only share how I learned to say
Yeah.
no. And it's so liberating. I think for me, when I realized that many of my choices were being made from a place of fear, and that I needed to make them from a place of love, a lot shifted for me.
Okay.
And I think the day I was financially secure, see, greed is endless. You can keep wanting more and more and more. But the day I realized that I have enough and more to sustain a simple, good life where I have access to the best medical care in case anybody in the family needs it. And I am working, or I have developed enough skill to be able to sustain a career. That was the day I realized that now I don't need to say yes because I'm afraid. I need to start saying no for the things that don't fulfill my purpose, for things that don't make me feel good about myself. I don't want to put myself into situations where I'm uncomfortable or that I feel disrespected or humiliated. And I feel that is the
Key.
Yeah. I think every woman should strive to work on her skills so much that she becomes undeniably the first choice for every job, and that she can sustain her own life and livelihood. I think being financially independent is a very big component of achieving that ability to say no.
Yeah, that is so true.
For many other things other than things that are directly connected to your physical being, right? So if you are uncomfortable about somebody touching you a certain way, please say no. Nothing should stop you from doing that. If somebody is making you feel uncomfortable even emotionally, you must say no. I mean, there at least the things, I feel the only way a woman can truly achieve agency is when she discovers what it is that makes her feel good and what is it that makes her feel not so good.
There's this saying that love yourself so much so that you don't depend on others for that love, right? That is also...
I think it's more of, I think all of us need to know ourselves well enough, respect ourselves enough and love ourselves enough to be able to give.
Yeah.
And to be able to be a healthy person in other people's lives.
Yeah. That is so nice, so positive, right? That you need to have that positive.
And I feel the same holds true for men and for women.
Yeah.
If you are psychologically unhealthy and you're insecure or you're full of fear and resentment and grudges and you're just an unhappy person, how can you bring joy to anybody's life? You are responsible for your own happiness.
True, that is so true.
Yeah.
When you talk about gender equality, I know for the fact that it's not always about, we are not just here to empower women, but we are also here to make sure that men are not being left out. क्योंकि हम
बिल्कुल
बस हमेशा बोलते हैं कि औरत ही बेचारी होती है, which is
Yes.
not the true case, right? What's your take on that?
अगर हम औरतों से बात करें, और हम खुद औरतें हैं, तो हम इस बात से बहुत अच्छी तरह से वाकिफ़ हैं. Women are just as much responsible for making our lives hell as men are.
Yeah.
Right? So, first and foremost, we need to change. We need to realize how our empathy, our love, our respect for one another, how our ability to empower each other can really shape, society. And then it, I think, also completely and entirely depends on what kind of boys we raise, what kind of children, what kind of men we are raising. And that's, I think, integral to bringing balance and an equal world. Because if our boys grew up thinking that they're entitled, and that they should always have special privileges because they're the male child, then they will never realize what kind of entitlement they go into every relationship of their life with. So it's on us, right, to make sure we share the load at home. Our children see both your mother and father doing the same job, sharing responsibilities, having open conversations, discussing matters of concern without secrecy, being expressive emotionally, both parents. So your boys have to grow up in homes where boys, girls, and all genders have to grow up in homes where there is an openness and a free flowing of expression, and everyone is treated with respect and regard. And it's natural that tempers will flare, people will get angry, but even within that anger, can there be respect?
Respect, so important.
Yes, because I see that so often, right, in the workspace. I'm sure you do it, you see it too. When people get angry, they can be so disrespectful.
That's true.
You have every right to be angry, but in anger is when your true values come out.
That is so true. When you say this, I've seen a few working women जिनको question किया जाता है कि अरे तुम काम भी करती हो, बच्चों को भी संभालती हो, कैसे?
ये तो बहुत बोला
है ना, बट आदमियों को ऐसे पूछा नहीं जाता.
बिल्कुल नहीं ना.
बट जब वो करते हैं, they'll be like, wow यार, they're doing it so well. Why is this happening?
क्योंकि a man running his home is the burden of patriarchal mindsets, right? Where the entire financial burden or onus of running a home or providing the economic support that is required to run a home is entirely on a man's shoulder, and therefore a woman is expected to be the primary caregiver, running the house, taking care of the children, running from one tuition to another class to a third class, coordinating 1,000 things, making sure the food is cooked at home and the house is clean, and doing much more than a man can perceivably ever do. But that's changing. We're working. Women are going to work and they have very strong support systems at home. But most often that support system comes in the form of more women. Our mothers, our house help. I know very few men who will take that 6-month paternity break. Even though it's offered today. I know very few men who are able to share every responsibility of the child equally, and not make a big deal about it. So it's hopefully it doesn't remain a rarity for long, and it becomes like common practice for everyone. Because when you choose to have a child, it's a responsibility that both parents should share equally.
The fact that nowadays there is an open discussion about, say, menstrual cycle and pregnancy and everything that was a taboo back then. And as taboo, people are like, अरे मर्दों के सामने हम ये नहीं discuss कर सकते. But things are changing right now, right? So what do you think is the way forward to this?
More conversations. Again, education. Boys, men, children have to be taught in schools about this is a human body, how it functions, what are the things that happen are natural. and all the inherited biases have to be erased with education and awareness.
You know, when you were mentioning about women empowerment and gender equality, I also feel that there are so many other issues that women face, right? I mean, what are the issues or challenges that a commoner, a general person goes through?
I mean, so it's so varied, right? My cook, who's now in her late 20s, she started working at a construction site when she was 8 years old, carrying, heavy material from one point to another. She slowly made her way into developing the skills that she has, being able to cook. She never got an education. She wasn't supported by her family at all. She was one of the few, earning members of her household. Her father had abandoned her. Now this is not a rare story. This is a common story, and there are many such girls and women in our country. Even in the agricultural sector, if you go into the heartland of India today, a vast majority of our fields are being cultivated by women. Not only are they cultivating our food, they are running their homes, they are taking care of their children, they walk hundreds of miles to get a pot of water. I feel like we are not paying enough attention to how the climate crisis impacts women and girls. And science indicates it and is making it evident actually that women and girls will be most affected by the climate crisis, because like any other situation, whenever there is any kind of a crisis, it's always the girls that suffer the most.
So mental health is so important, not just for men or women, but for any gender for that matter, right? And especially during the lockdown, I think people have suffered a lot mentally, right? So tell me about the importance of mental health and how one should seek help and seek therapy if need be.
We have to normalize, and I think a lot of effort is being made to normalize the need to seek counsel when you're not feeling good emotionally. Emotional and mental health are critical to your well-being, your future, your presence, and it impacts everything. It impacts your professional life, it impacts your family life, it impacts you as a person. And I think more and more families are discovering how important it is to normalize seeing, a therapist. And I feel cinema and films and stories have made a big difference in doing that, and also social media. I feel like there are so many young YouTubers, influencers who are normalizing, platforms like yours that are normalizing and helping more people discover how important it is to have a healthy emotional and physical life. And I think that, how do I say it? I think that when a film like Dhak Dhak is made, where you show how important it is to get that, or so many others. I saw live that Amir and Aira went on recently, where they both, father and daughter, are talking about the importance of, getting the right advice and seeking advice when you need it. I know so many people. I can think back to my childhood and I now realize there were so many people in my family, extended family, who suffered quietly, silently for years, for decades, and they didn't even know that they were suffering from anxiety, or they were suffering from depression, or they were suffering from, other mental health issues. So yeah, that taboo has to go, and it has to go across generations. It has to go across all stratas of society. It has to become just as accessible to our construction labor, to our farm hands, to our handicraftsmen, our artisans. क्योंकि जब बुरा वक्त आता है तो किसी का भी आता है, तो सबको उतनी ही मदद मिलनी चाहिए जितने की कोई मतलब अर्बन ड्वेलिंग टीनेज हो या टीनेजर हो या कोई गांव में बसा हुआ इंसान हो जो जिसको वो उपलब्धि नहीं हो रही है आज भी, वो बहुत ज़रूरी है. एंड आई फील लाइक देयर आर लॉट ऑफ गवर्नमेंट स्कीम्स दैट आर आल्सो हेल्पिंग, एंड देयर इज लॉट ऑफ civil society organizations also that are making a difference.
You spoke about Dhak Dhak, right?
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to mention is that while right now we are seeing this progress of showcasing roles, women-centric roles. Again, women-centric is such a, we never say male-centric, right? But we do showcase women-centric roles on the big screen. But I still feel people who are behind the screens, right? There's a huge discussion about pay disparity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at least now we see that there's a discussion, but back then in the early 90s there was no discussion at all. People would probably be scared to ask for an equal pay or things like that.
I find this conversation to be, I find it very funny. I'll tell you why. It is 10 people control a vast majority of the finances of the industry. I'm talking about the film industry. Okay. 10, maybe 15 people. They're the highest paid, they get the most money. Their films make the most money. And whatever little is left after that is what percolates to the rest of the ecosystem. It is an unequal place. And that's unfortunately the reality of much of the world.
Yeah.
So 1% of the human population controls 99% of the world's money. So it's an unequal world.
Yeah.
And how do we fight or rise above a capitalist structure that has been created to make the world unequal? Which is one of our biggest fights with the Sustainable Development Goals. We keep talking about how there's no way we can achieve the SDGs by 2030 if more money is not distributed equally.
Wow, that number that you just mentioned, 99% and 1%, it's kind of scary, right?
आप कोई भी Oxfam report उठा के पढ़ लो, देखो किसके पास सबसे ज़्यादा पैसा है. तो वो जो दरार है वो बहुत समय लगेगा भरने के लिए, क्योंकि अभी सब कहते हैं स्टार सिस्टम. क्या है वो स्टार सिस्टम? इट्स द कंट्रोल ऑफ पावर एंड मनी ना. और वो कौन देता है? ऑडियंस ही देती है उनको. किसी ने बनाया है ना उनको उतना पावरफुल. सो आप अगर उतना ही पैसा किसी और की फिल्म देखने में लगा देते. मैं कैलकुलेट कर रही थी, हमारी फिल्म धक धक आई 13 अक्टूबर को, और 13 अक्टूबर को नेशनल सिनेमा डे था. तो टिकट प्राइसेस 99 रुपीज़ के थे. तो मैंने फिर सोचा कि अगर 99 रुपीज़ के हैं टिकट्स, और मेरे जो अगर सिर्फ इंस्टाग्राम के सारे फॉलोअर्स 5.5 मिलियन फॉलोअर्स ये फिल्म देख ले, तो ये फिल्म कितना पैसा कमाती है कि नहीं? सी यू कैन कंप्लेन, यू कैन से दैट स्टूडियो ने प्रमोशन उतना नहीं किया, बहुत सारे लोगों को पता नहीं, लेकिन जो मुझे फॉलो करते हैं उनको तो पता है हाँ. कि उस दिन फिल्म आ रही थी. अगर उसमें से 50% लोग भी जाके देख लेते तो कितनी बड़ी हिट हो जाती. सो आई फील there is a gap, and that gap will only be filled by our individual choices.
Right. And do you feel that financial education जो हम सीखते हैं algebra वगैरह is needed?
No, I feel
taxes and all of that.
We all need to learn how to pay our taxes, how to manage our money. I mean, I've learned along the way. I still flounder. I still don't know where to invest, how to invest. But that clarity has come with time and learning and exposure, and also understanding ki, oh, I don't want to invest my money in any company that is unsustainable. I don't want to put my money in any banking institution that is harming the environment. This kind of clarity comes with education. It comes with experience and understanding, and all of this should be taught.
Yeah, in schools
along with algebra and geometry. This should also be taught. How to deploy your resources, how to save your money, how to use your money effectively.
You know, Dia, the fact that you are known for breaking stereotypes and overcoming all these challenges, it is so beautiful. Especially when you had a female priest at your wedding, man, hats off to that, because I know there was just too many comments on the internet regarding this, but what was your take on that?
Honestly, for me, I was at a friend's wedding and I saw this lady perform that wedding. And I was so deeply moved by it. And I couldn't remember the last time I felt so immersed, so involved, and so spiritually connected to the ceremony. And I was like, I have to call her. Sheila Atta is so special that we wanted her to be there for us. And she was very generous and kind, and she came. It's only when we did the wedding that we realized what a rarity it is. That it's so uncommon, that this is a profession that is not perceived to be one that a woman can follow. Again, it's an outcome of the caste system, it's an outcome of just the cultural system and patriarchy. But I'm so glad that people recognized how powerful, how beautiful, and how much Shakti you can experience when somebody is so spiritually aligned with what is being done.
It just shows for the fact that profession has no gender.
Profession has no gender and should never. No profession should have gender. Everyone should be able to do every single job. This again comes from the cultural hierarchies created by caste and by the system of oppression, where whether it's colonization or it's even the whole Raja Rani that pratha na कि royalty ये करेंगे, फिर ब्राह्मण ये करेंगे, फिर उसके बाद उसमें भी caste system ही है.
Thank you so much for this lovely conversation. Lastly, I want to ask you, how do you envision this world to be inclusive, diverse, and also when we say gender equality, it's not just about one gender, right? It's about all the genders that are present. So,
I think at the end of the day, when you look around you and you realize, and I'm not oversimplifying it, but you just look at the chaos that we're living in the middle of. Everything that's happening. There are over 700 regions on the planet right now that are in conflict. Some of them are more apparent because they're at war, but there is all kinds of cruelty that human beings are experiencing. And what is it that causes that? I always say this, it's always a few egoistic, power-hungry men that cause pain, suffering, and conflict. It's happened historically, it's continuing to happen. The only way we can bring a real change in the world is if we all just operate from a place of love. And accept each other and respect each other and be kind to one another. That will bring big change. Let's just abandon biases. Let's stop being cruel to each other. Let's just be kind.
Let's just do our bit and make this world a kinder place.
अपनी रोजाना जिंदगी में,
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
It was lovely talking to you, and as I said, it was a dream come true for me. Thank you.
Sheetal. Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
आप सभी को नवरात्रि की हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं. If you enjoy this video and this conversation, please subscribe to Pink Villa.
Pink Villa. Look no further.